This is maxomai, and I just got my ballot in the mail. And so the reason why I'm thrilled about this is because finally, after all the hard work, after all the blogging, I have a chance to do this. It's one vote for Barack Obama. Can you see that? It's Jeff Merkley. He's running for Senate here in Oregon against a guy named Gordon Smith. Main reason I'm voting for Jeff Merkley is because this is a guy who engineered two bills in the Oregon legislature. One was for equal rights for gays and lesbians, and the other was for our version of civil unions, which we call domestic partnerships. Alright, and I also voted for Kate Brown for Secretary of State. I'm also voting for Jules Kopel-Bailey. Diane Rosenbaum, who is right now my representative in the Oregon House, is running for state senator. She's running unopposed. I voted for her too. God bless her. She's going to do a wonderful job. Jules was not my first choice. My first choice was actually a young lady that worked with Diane Rosenbaum for years and years and years, but she lost the primary. But Jules is an impressive enough guy. I had a chance to speak with him while he was canvassing during the primary. He seems like a sharp enough tack. His values are definitely in line with other Oregon values. His experience as an economist for an ecological organization, I think, is going to serve him and serve us as his constituents very well when he goes to the state legislature. I voted yes on Measure 56. There we go. Now, the reason why I voted yes on 56 is because I'm kind of frustrated by the way that we have to pass tax levies around here. If you're not familiar with the system in Oregon, the way that we pass tax levies is that a municipality or a county that wants to pass a levy, raise some money for a fire station or for school improvements or things like that, has to have a ballot measure, and in order for that ballot measure to pass, 50% of the eligible voters have to vote on the measure, and 50% of the voters that vote on the measure have to say yes. So in essence, a non-vote is a no vote. This is a little bit irritating to me because we do need some infrastructure improvements here in Oregon, and I would like to see things like money for schools and money for police and money for firefighters come into the coffers. And if we're going to do it with ballot measures, then frankly, I would like to see the no side on these measures go out there and have to justify their case to the voters so that they actually have to get out of the no vote. And Measure 56 means that they would have to do that because it gets rid of the double majority requirement. It means that it's a simple 50% of the voters that vote on the measure in order to pass. So, if you're still following along, here I voted yes on Measure 57, and over here I voted no on Measure 61. 57 and 61 are both measures intended to create a minimum sentence for certain crimes, drug crimes, property crimes, burglary, that kind of thing. The big difference is that 61 has jail time, and only jail time, and 57 also has some ability for rehabilitation. Now, I'm aware that not everybody is going to respond to rehabilitation, and frankly, if you don't respond to rehabilitation, after a few chances, but I also think we ought to give people at least a shot. So I'm also voting for a bond measure for better facilities for the local zoo. I voted yes for the Portland Community Colleges measure. It's a measure for a few $100 million in general obligation bonds to expand, modernize, and construct new facilities for additional students, upgrade technology, blah, 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 because, I mean, who doesn't care about education, right? Just as a side note, I always resent it when I hear people like George Bush and John McCain talking about how the community colleges are supposed to bear the burden for our free trade policies and all the people who are unemployed because of our free trade policies. In my opinion, that's a dodge. But I'm also keenly aware that you have a lot of young people who go to community colleges first in order to start their college education, and I always want to encourage that. So I voted against Measure 62. Now this is not because I have anything against the police. I have a very great deal of respect for the police and for anybody who works in the public sector, providing for our safety and for our general welfare, or as some people like to claim in the police business, just cleaning up after the disaster's already happened. I always want to look out for them, but let me be frank about this. A constitutional amendment is not the way to allocate money to the police. This is what we have legislators for. So I voted no on Measure 64, which you can see here. Measure 64 would make it illegal for public employees, whether they're state employees, county employees, or municipal employees, to have their union contributions or additional union contributions deducted from their paycheck. Now here's the thing that I don't understand. First of all, unions are the people who are speaking out for the working people. People like me who work for a living. We're not Wall Street types. We're not really investor class. We're living paycheck to paycheck, more or less, although in my case that's starting to improve a bit. And the unions, the union that I belong to in particular, when I got laid off 5 years ago, they marched on management to demand my job back. And they got me my job back. And I've been able to do things like get my second master's degree and, get married and support my wife while she's looking for a job, more or less, because the unions fought for me and they fought for my job. And nobody has really explained to me, quite frankly, why public employees shouldn't have the same representation. They shouldn't have the same people speaking for them, and why they shouldn't be able to make contributions to their union for whatever cause. That's entirely the reason why I voted against Measure 64. It has nothing to do with the fact that I find Bill 5 exceedingly irritating. So I voted against Measure 65, as you can see there. A lot of friends of mine like Measure 65, but I'm generally against it. What Measure 65 would do is it would establish an open primary in the state of Oregon, so that all the candidates and all the different political parties put all of their candidates onto one primary ballot, and then the top 2 vote getters compete in the general election. And the reason why I'm against this is because this would allow for the kind of things that we saw in Michigan, where Republicans can determine who the Democratic candidate in an election is going to be, and vice versa. Quite frankly, I think this is a First Amendment issue. I think if you belong to a political party, you and only you have the right to determine who is going to be represented by your party. And also, I think minor parties are going to get screwed out on this deal also. So, it's in the envelope. I'm done voting. All I have to do is drop it off at the library. Don't nibble the camera. All right.